Hello book fighters, it's Thursday, August 12th. I'm Katie, and this week I read Sherlock Holmes, A Study in Scarlet. I really enjoyed this book. If I were going to rate it on the same scale I used last week, I'd give it a 4 out of 5. One thing that I did find out that I found rather interesting is that if you watch the TV show House, the relationship between House and Wilson is based on the relationship between Holmes and Watson, which you can definitely see. The thing that I found most interesting about this story is that it was all told from Watson's point of view. Now, I don't know if you've ever taken any film classes or women's studies classes, but in American film, the point of view of the camera is always a male perspective, which means that in American films, the watcher is the man and the female is watched. And you can see this in any movie that you ever watch, especially in something like James Bond. The men are sort of your point of view characters, and then the women are something that are to be looked at. And this is true even when the protagonists are females. And once you notice this, you see it in everything. But the eye of the film is male. What was interesting in Sherlock Holmes is that it's all told from Watson's perspective, even though the story is about Sherlock Holmes. So it's interesting to see that the thing being watched in this case is Sherlock Holmes. It also makes the actual mystery of the story Holmes himself rather than the plot, rather than the who killed this person in this story. I also found the Holmes character himself very interesting. He's very cynical, but also very excitable. Like, he really loves some things, but he's very cynical about the world around him and the way that society works. And I can understand that, actually. I find myself very much relating to Sherlock Holmes, and I think a lot of people can connect with that a lot more than some of the more modern novels where you have, you know, the high school kid that's not popular and is fighting against the in crowd. And this feels more real to me than that kind of thing does. Even though, I mean, obviously this is a young adult novel, so you can't exactly compare the two, but the idea is still there. Now, Dan, I am a lot like you in that I'm very critical about anything that I watch or read. For me, I find that I have the plot pretty much figured out about a quarter of the way into any book or movie or TV show. So it has to say something interesting, or it has to have characters that I can relate to or find interesting in some way for me to enjoy it. It has to bring something to the table other than the plot itself. This story, the plot in this one, it's your regular mystery novel. Someone is murdered, they try to figure out who killed them. But the way in which the story is told is different, and the characters are different, and that's why this is a good story to me. And that's sort of how I feel about books in general, and movies in general as well. Speaking of being critical, Lord of the Rings is getting a lot of flack this week. Dan said in his video that he enjoyed the novel he read more than Lord of the Rings, and then over on the Room Fighters channel, Bree was hating on The Hobbit, and that's fine. You know, not everyone has to enjoy the story, but I think that it is important to understand the significance of Lord of the Rings. If you look through literary history, there are sort of cornerstone novels that change the way literature is written and the way it is read and the things that are okay to write about. And Lord of the Rings is one of those novels. If you like Twilight or Harry Potter or even World of Warcraft, you have to pay a certain amount of homage to Lord of the Rings because these books legitimized fantasy as a genre. Without it, we wouldn't have stories about elves or wizards or vampires, because up until that point it was not taken seriously as a genre at all. I mean, it was relegated to children's stories if it even made an appearance there. And because of Lord of the Rings, it's now a very popular genre, a very legitimate genre, and I think that needs to be recognized. Even if you don't like the books or you don't like the way the story is told, they're very important to the way we read literature now and the books that are made now, especially considering two of the most popular book series of the last 20 years are in the fantasy genre. So this week I'd kind of like to hear your guys' thoughts on that topic, if you have any. I mean, no one really jumped onto the asking questions thing that I tried to start last week, and that's okay. But I do think that we need a little discussion between us here and between the reviewers, just if we're going to keep it interesting for everyone involved for the entire course of this project. I think there needs to be a little interaction. And this might, in addition to the fact that I just want to get to know you guys better, like I said before. So yeah, I'd like to hear your thoughts on this topic, if you have any. And if anyone else has something they want to talk about, bring it up in your videos. I want to hear from everybody. Or if the viewers have any literary topics they would like us to discuss, maybe put them in the comments, and we'll maybe get to those. Maybe, if people don't hate this idea as well. We'll see. Next week, I don't know what I'm gonna read next week. Let's see what I have here. Here we go. Next week I'm going to read Feed by M.T. Anderson. I started reading it last summer, but I didn't get very far into it. So I'm going to try to get through that again. I've heard great things about it, so we'll see. So that's what I'll be talking about next week. Until then, Julia, I will see you tomorrow, and best wishes.